Hello and welcome. This is my channel where I discuss various technologies. My name's Sala, and in this series I've been looking and will continue to explore MS Loops in the wider M365 space. It is a really consequential product. So far, we have covered very basic concepts of where do you actually use Loop. We explored places like M365 Copilot, that is the chatbot, where you can memorialize or keep for good those outputs that the chatbot produces, and those are by way of pages. We also looked at how you can insert loop components within MS Teams chats, and I demonstrated two different types of chats: a chat within a channel and a chat within a direct message. That is about where the actual files are stored. We can also create loop components within an Outlook email message. The same story. The component itself is going to be stored within your OneDrive, but everything is stored within SPE or SharePoint embedded. Today I'm going to be talking about the last piece or the last tool from which you can create loop components, and that is Whiteboard. If you haven't used Whiteboard, I highly encourage you to look at it because it's great. If you need to brainstorm things, you need to explain things, it is essentially the digital version of the classic whiteboard or blackboard. So let's take a look at how do we get that going. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Whiteboard itself, but just to demonstrate the loop aspect of it. The first thing to do is, if you don't have a Whiteboard desktop edition, which you can install as well, like everything else in the M365 space is available to you through here. So if you don't see it in that list of apps, you just go all apps and scroll down and you're gonna see it down here. If you click on that, it's gonna go ahead and open it in its own tab. You can start with one of the existing templates. I'm gonna go just start with, let's say, event planning. And it's beautiful. What you could do as you are collaborating, you can click on this little ellipsis here. One of them, as you would expect, is loop components. So if you click on loop components, you get to choose from one of these. One of my favorite for teamwork is progress tracker and task list tracker. So a task list lives in planner. We'll come to that when we discuss where is what in the dedicated episode, but you can simply go pick spot and drop it there. You can see it is being added. What is happening right now is behind the scenes is creating that planner element and the component within MS Loops. And as you would expect, you will see these familiar buttons, the access and copy component, and then open in browser. That is what the loop component is essentially. And if I were to go back to my loop right now, if I were to refresh my recent pages, you would expect it to show up here just as it did with Microsoft Outlook and MS Teams instigated components. It's gonna take a few seconds, so I'll just keep refreshing this page. And as you can see, it is here, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and add, this was started in Whiteboard. And as you would expect, again, if I go back to Whiteboard right now, you'll see that whatever text you put in the loop page or the component inside the page, because within loop everything is presented to us within a page, and that is how you integrate Whiteboard with MS Loop. Again, I'll revisit this when it comes to where are those actual pages stored at beyond SPE, where everything is ultimately deposited. That's the central repository for everything loop, right? So that hopefully gives you a very good understanding now of the different clients from which or within which we can interact with MS Loop components. Let's now move on fully to Loop itself. As you can see here, we've been exploring over the previous sessions how to create a page in here and a page within MS Teams and a page within a component within Outlook and so on. And if you look at this drop down here, you will see where is that particular component right now. So for this one here, for example, loop paragraph that started in Teams, and then we have one that we started in Microsoft Outlook in my message here. All those are consolidated in this view that is recent. We also created this workspace that we called Lecture 2 workspace. We looked at the landing page where all the workspaces are presented, also from where you can create a new workspace, right? So that is the story of Workspaces. Now let's come back to that discussion of pages versus components. I'm going to spend a little bit of time to clarify the difference between the two and how they come about. If you go create a component in Teams or in Outlook or in Whiteboard, as we saw a few minutes ago, then that is one way to create components. Another way to create components is if I were to start a new page, I just clicked new. You can see create new page here, or you could also click this button up here. So for convenience, we have it at the top and at the bottom. You can understand when this starts growing, finding that bottom create action can be a bit challenging. And that was the only one we had for a while until they graciously added that top one addition there. So components, I just created the page. I mentioned a few times that / is the way we add components into a page, right? A few things you can do. The first thing you'll see here, a new subpage. What happened right there, it inserted a page on the left-hand side there, untitled again as usual. But if I come back to this, you'll see we have table, checklist, numbered list, etc. There's a whole bunch of them in here that you can insert, including integrations with external apps such as GitHub, Planner, Jira, and Trello. I suspect there will be more down the road. You can also record videos in here, insert images. This is using Stream. So let me add a table, for example. You can start typing in here after the slash, and that will filter through that list and makes it easy as well. This is a table. If I were to go, let's say, mention Alex in here and say, hey, Alex, what should I... or what do you think? Helps me. Tab completes those suggestions. By the way, if you have a paid Copilot, that's Copilot for Microsoft 365, then it will be popping up here, giving you helpful hints, and it can even write entire scripts and paragraphs for you if you like. So in here, if I were to go task assigned to me, for instance, Adam, this is a task for you, right? The point here is within the table, and you can go ahead and press enter. That will expand the cell indefinitely, so you can type as if you were typing in any text editor. You could also add new rows over here. You can delete that. You can copy the entire row. You can right click on any of the cells and you will have access to a lot more options as well. So one of the things that you're familiar with in tables, whether it's in Excel or Word and so on, is manipulation of the rows and columns via the right click context menu. That's very similar here. You can insert a column to the right, you can insert a row above and below and so on, right? So it's just a very familiar table instructions. Now, this little waffle here, we call it a waffle because it looks like waffle. If you have used SharePoint Online for a while, you also see it there. This list keeps changing for the better. They keep adding things. But one thing I want you to note is this one here. It says create loop component. So components can be created in Teams, Outlook, Whiteboard, as you've seen so far. They can also be created from within Loop itself, right? Another quick way to create a component is up here, copy as loop component. So you can either copy the entire page and bundle it as a component, or you can pick one of those elements within loop page and create a component out of it. You could also copy a link to this particular component within that page. That is just like shortcuts within pages on any website, right? If I were to go and create a loop component out of it, and then I'd go to MS Teams here and have a chat with one of my peers. I'm going to do a DM this time. The difference between starting a chat directly with a person versus in a channel that I keep referring to is this. You go into a team channel and start a post. That would be a chat within the channel, which has different behavior, different governance around the different locations where files go, including the loop components. So it is a different experience, and this is also visible to everybody within that channel, as opposed to a direct message. You would go into chat and then you start a new message. When I start a new message here, I get to choose who to talk to. So maybe I'm talking to Arden today. Here is a new table. Check it out. And I'm gonna go ahead and just paste it. Control V, and within a few seconds, hopefully, it should start rendering it. If I copy this loop component and simply go ahead and paste it here, what it should do is render it in this window. So that is a component from within. Components then can be created in clients of all sorts, including the loop client, because what we are using right here is a loop client. It has a bit more loop specific aspects to it, but as you know by now, everything is essentially stored inside of SPE or SharePoint embedded, with this detail stored as a file in various locations that we'll be exploring down the road. One of the things that you can do, as I mentioned, is you can record a video, and that will launch Stream, which is another product that has been integrated into SharePoint. It used to be scattered all over the place. Now it is all within SharePoint. Loop components can be created in various locations, including Loop itself, as you have seen now, as well as the ones we explored earlier, Copilot, Chatbot, MS Teams, Outlook. Today we also saw you can create it within Whiteboard. Those pages can be surfaced or will be surfaced, or you can explore them through the central location, which is the MS Loop client, where you would find all the pages is the recent pages. You can also create your own workspaces. That is where all pages are organized. If pages were created in places like Copilot, they will immediately be sent into my workspace, as opposed to the other components which we create through those tools such as MS Teams and Outlook and so on. They won't be in this particular workspace. They won't be in any workspace, as a matter of fact, until you add them. But they can be accessed through here. You will see them in recent, and then when you click on that, you will see that it is, this particular one was created in a Team DM, which has slightly different experience to it. From here, we can organize that content into workspaces, and this is where we do it. Add workspace, and this will show me all the workspaces that are available for me to add content into. If I go add it to this workspace here, lecture 2 workspace, well, this is our lecture 3, but I haven't created a workspace for it yet. You will see here all those components that were created elsewhere, such as DM component that was created within MS Teams direct message, you will see that it gives me the option to add it to a workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to this one as well. If I go back to the Lecture 2 workspace, you will see that it created a link to those pages, right? So it's really just organizing that content, not copying it. Now, if you must, you can make this permanent in this workspace, and I'll show you a trick to do that. It's not straightforward, but I encourage you not to do that for components that start their lives elsewhere. So if you have a DM or a team channel instigated component, or a component that you received via email, or that is created within Whiteboard as we saw, then you shouldn't do what I'm going to show you right now, because a link preserves the original location, and whatever changes you make in here will also be reflected in the source document. But if your intention is to create a copy, this is like saving an attachment from your email, such as a Word document and so on, and you store a new local drive. Doing that pretty much invalidates that version control, or breaks that relationship, the umbilical cord to the original document, which is a bad practice, right? Unless you are aware of it and you are intentional in doing so. A lot of times I start my work by creating stuff in certain workspaces, and then I find myself, maybe this belongs in a different workspace. So what I do in that case is I adopt this process. I go into the source workspace. For example, right here, I have got some documents from another workspace where I was going back and forth, and I want to make this one here permanent. The trick to doing that is whenever you see this link on it, you go ahead and duplicate it. Now, duplicating a linked page is going to create a local copy out of it. In this case, it didn't work. I think it's a permissions issue. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this one more time, and it's working. Up here you can see it's duplicating, and that was a success. If I were to go ahead and open this, you will notice that it kept the name, it added a number, it says number 2. Now I can safely remove this one here. This way I got rid of that connection, or the umbilical cord as I called it, to the source document. I can just rename this, and now this is a local copy of that document. For a fact that you don't want to alter the original document and you want a local copy out of that, this is also a quick way to reorganize your content, because right now there is no easy way to copy content from one workspace to the other. So I can't simply drag and drop this page into another workspace, although I suspect the brilliant team behind the product will get us there at some point. But right now the only way to reorganize your content that I am aware of is to go to the source, click on this, and share a page link, and then go ahead, or you can directly add it to a workspace from here. What this is going to do is basically create a link for you, as I mentioned. So if I go now into MS Loop Lectures, that's where I wanted to add it. I'm going to go back here in MS Loop Lectures, and up here you can see I've got my YouTube article in there, right? So I can simply duplicate this, and then don't forget, delete this link. That is not going to delete the source document though. So if this shuffling of content is meant for you to consolidate it in one location and then completely get rid of it from the source, then you should obviously go back to the source and delete the original document or page from that location. Let me just recap real quick. Components can be created within pages. as well as within other clients. Pages, we create them within the Loop client, for which I also mentioned last time, there is a desktop version. It is just a wrapper around the web client, but it's convenient to have it locally, although the content, as we all know by now, is stored in SPE, so you always have to be connected. Unlike Word and Excel, where the files can be stored locally on your desktop and your local drives, these are not. They are permanently stored in the cloud, and you have to be connected. So that's another thing to keep in mind. You cannot work on these pages or components offline. Right. So we talked about how you can add components in here and how you can copy them as loop components. You can also copy the entire page as a loop component and go into the respective clients, post here and try and paste it. So components then can be started in any of the compatible clients, including the Microsoft Loop page within the Loop client as well. So that's components and pages. Hopefully you have clarity on the difference between the two and how we can create those. But ultimately, everything is hosted in a page, and it will be rendered within that page from the Loop client. We also discussed the workspaces, how you can create a workspace, how you can utilize workspace. The recent workspaces are listed here. You can organize your content within workspace, whether that content is started within Loop or within one of those other clients, right? And I showed you how you can copy essentially content between workspaces via linking and then duplicating. Of course, it goes without saying that you could simply come in here, select all, Control A, just like you would in Microsoft Word, Control A, and then Control C. That will copy it, and then you can go to a new page and paste it, right? So again, a very familiar experience. That's pretty much what I had for you today. So thank you for watching. If you like this, indicate so by clicking that like button. If you want to see more of my videos and want to be notified, please subscribe as well. It's good to see engagement, and you're welcome to just watch it anonymously as well. Thank you, and see you in the next session.